of your co-zoomer there today?
This is Christine Van Eersel.
Christine, hello, welcome, Christine. Sitting amongst the drums.
Right across the road from me. Welcome back, Scott. I miss you.
I've said before, if you have to come back to a workplace, I love coming back to this workplace where I am at the moment. And if you have to come back to a community, we are the community I want to come back to after vacation. So good morning. Let's say Barbara. Hello, Barbara and Kristen. And there's Mel. So Ruth, I'm just going to wait one more minute here. Just more people are popping on.
That's great.
They're all talking. They're talking in the parking lot out there, you know, as they do. And then we have to go lasso them to bring them in the building.
I was afraid I was going to miss. I hooked up in the living room where I usually am, and they started work next door with music blaring. It would have been quite the background for the service. I had to move quick.
I'm glad you did. And I like your background. It's very nice. Morning, Randall. Good to see you. And Frank there.
Good morning.
Hey, Scott, can I make a suggestion to people? Go see the movie Dear Evan Hansen.
Okay.
Dear Evan Hansen, is it?
It's a musical, but they put it into a movie. Ben Platt, who originated the role, is starring in it. And it is absolutely amazing. It's about mental health and stuff. And it is absolutely, like, I walked out of it and there's just a couple of us in the theater for an afternoon. And all of us just looked at each other and went, wow. So it's worth checking out if you're interested.
Thank you, Kristen. Good recommendation. And I'm just seeing two more people come in, so I'll just wait for that and then I will pass it.
We saw that show when live when Mervish put it on.
I wish I couldn't afford it and I have to drive to get there and it's just too expensive, but they did an awesome job with the movie. Beautiful job.
Okay, Ruth, I think it's 1 minute past. So let's invite the beginning.
Yes, well, good morning, everyone. And welcome to you all today from West Hill. Each Sunday, we begin our service by acknowledging that West Hill is on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, whose lands have been previously occupied by the Huron-Wendat and Seneca First Nations. This place is and will continue to be home to Indigenous peoples. Yesterday, I glanced at my calendar and saw that there are two very important dates that we need to consider and be aware of and give careful consideration to this week. First, today is World Rivers Day, a celebration of the world's waterways. This was started by a man in British Columbia in 2005, and over 100 countries are celebrating now. It highlights the many values of our rivers, strives to increase public awareness, and encourages the improved stewardship of all rivers around the world. Rivers in virtually every country face an array of threats, and through our active involvement, that's the only way that we can ensure that these rivers stay healthy into the future. Secondly, Thursday of this week is National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a day for education and reflection on the 150,000 children who were taken from their homes, sent off to residential schools, where they lost their culture, their language, and any sense of who they actually were. That is for those who survived the ordeal. Because of the 150,000 children sent to residential school, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, in its report from 2015, shows that 4,100 children died in those schools. Since then, more evidence has been found, and some believe the number is actually closer to 25,000 lives lost. But why? Why did this happen? Was it willful blind ignorance, colonial superiority, or belief in biblical scriptures of spare the rod and spoil the child? or all three combined. I believe all our churches have a great deal to answer for in this tragedy. Unfortunately, some people are still in denial that anything happened at all, even some teachers. However, with the recent painful discovery of the graves at the residential school sites, the fact that this horror did occur can no longer be disputed. And we cannot forget, we must not forget. By wearing an orange t-shirt on September 30th, we honor the lives of these Indigenous children who were sent away to residential schools in Canada. If someone asks you about the orange shirt you are wearing, you will have information to share.
Can't hear you, Ruth. We can't hear you.
Ruth, I'm sorry, I hit muting you by mistake.
It's you.
Ruth, I muted you by mistake, Ruth.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know where I was when I got. And we cannot forget, we must not forget, by wearing an orange t-shirt on Thursday, we honor the Indigenous children that were sent away to residential schools in Canada. If someone asks you about the orange shirt you are wearing, you will have information to share and open the subject up with them on it. Remember, education is the key to reconciliation. I believe that these two items, our waterways and the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, relate closely to one another, because to me, real reconciliation means that if you are a child living on reserve, you should be able to turn on the tap and to drink and to bathe in the water without any fear of getting sick. On Thursday, let's all think about that in the spirit of reconciliation. Thank you.
It's still you, Ruth.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Do we have, are there any announcements for today's? And have anything that I
do, Ruth. It's Barb.
Hi, Barb.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is from the Outreach Committee, West Hill United. Just a couple of things. First of all, we just found out that through our August backpack campaign, the committee, because of all of you, raised $615 towards helping kids go back to school with their supplies. And that money will go towards the Toronto residents as well as the Scarborough Centre for Healthy Community. So thank you very much, community, for supporting our campaign. We also just wanted to remind you that now is the time of giving to the food banks. The Daily Bread Food Bank started its Thanksgiving campaign yesterday. They are hoping to raise $3 million and 264,000 pounds of food. They're seeing a 50% increase in people needing the food bank in the last few months. So the need is there. So please consider donating and sharing in your wealth of food. And just a heads up that later in the year, in November, the Outreach Committee will be starting their Christmas hamper campaign. So enjoy. Thank you.
I'd like to make some announcements, if I may. Mike Laurie for
Thanks, Mike.
board. I want to, first of all, thank the VisionWorks team. We'll be hearing all about that today, but led by Scott with Doug, John, Emily, and Deb. This has been revised, updated, and we thank you for the incredible work that was done. I want to refer folks to our newsletter for more information as to what is going on, and if you want more detail for my message. We are planning on a congregational meeting to address some of the issues that we have been facing over the last 18 months. The date has not yet been set. This is being organized and coordinated by the planning guidance team led by Jean. Also on that team is Anita, Deb, and myself. We hope that it might be at the end of October, but we're not sure. Scott, you will be commenting on the possibility of a limited return to in-person gatherings. We initially thought that it might start on October 3rd, but I understand that there are some reservations about that. 5 people have been selected who have volunteered. So if we are ready to go, that might happen for next week. So it's great to see things moving ahead in that regard. As always, I welcome questions and comments, and rather than just making that statement, I put my email and phone number in the chat. So if you said, he always says that, but how do we really find him? I don't know. So now that's there. And one final thing is that we are changing the start time for our board meetings because we have such a widespread distribution of people that are participating, and particularly all the way to Edinburgh. We will be starting our October 12th board meeting at 1 p.m. So John McKechnie doesn't have to stay up after midnight if he wants to attend. So we're going to give that a try just to see how that works, and that will be a Zoom meeting. That's, I think, basically all I have to say. Back to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Mike. At this time, too, we want to recognize the time and talents and resources that we appreciate from everyone at West Hill and beyond. You offer so much of your energy, skills, and time, and West Hill wouldn't be what the same. It wouldn't mean what it is to the community if it weren't for all of you. Thank you.
Ruth, may I interrupt just to give a quick little announcement?
Sure. Yes.
Sorry, I didn't jump in there quickly enough. Just two things. One, Scott's going to be talking about the VisionWorks document today, and he's going to be leading a 3-part series of discussions on the document. I think it starts this coming Wednesday, but yes, okay. So that information about that will be coming out to you. And the other thing is, I mentioned last week, the course from the University of Alberta, the Faculty of Native Studies, and the course is called Indigenous Canada, and it's going to be the next study that we're going to be doing together. It's online, it's free. There are 12 weeks, so we're doing 6 in the fall and 6 in January, February. And so I'll put the link in the chat, and that'll be coming out in your weekly e-blast too for the next few weeks. So you can sign up, and it's about, I think, a commitment of about 2 hours per week to watch the videos that they give you and read the articles. And then we'll meet together to talk about it and how it hit us, and what our reactions are and what we can do about it moving forward. So that's what's coming up. And sorry, my phone's going crazy for some reason. We are hoping that we have a really good response and really good conversations. So more information to come, but that'll be the Wednesdays following after Scott's finished his 3 weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. Are there any other announcements? Okay, then Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
We're doing things a slightly different order for today. So I'm going to move right into the sharing time. And as always, I'm just going to ask a couple of people to mention, before we go into celebrations of any sort, we want to also take the time, and Ruth has already taken us there on 2 major interrelated topics, but also everything else that's happening on our planet, locally, globally, personally, and there's so many struggles going on. One moment on the news gives you that from different directions, whether it's natural disasters people are dealing with, whether it's accidents, as we just heard the Amtrak accident in the States, whether it's disease, whether it's poverty, whether it's encroachment of rights, whether it's violence, whether it's war. There's all these things. And so we do take a moment. There's always the danger, it appears trivial just to mention something, but from the heart, we are mentioning and thinking of those people, those organizations, those groups of people, those places, those living creatures on the planet that are struggling with harm and hurt and fear. And so I just welcome anyone to just come on, just a few. We're not trying to make an exhaustive list by any means, but a few names that heighten our awareness of people, places that are struggling to survive, struggling to flourish.
Afghan women.
The Haitians under the bridge.
Mother Earth.
All those caught in the COVID disagreement, stresses and strains within workplaces and within families. And as you come across a person, a place, an organization this week, and hold them, we are all holding them in our hearts, and then determining if there's something we can do to that issue, even if it's to heighten our awareness and speak of it differently, but or donate or support or write, anything like that. So we gather all that together and say together, in this our time of need,
May
Love abound.
And so we move into the sharing time, where you're welcome to share a celebration, a joy, a milestone, or a worry, a difficulty, a challenge, a sad announcement. And it could be about you, or with their permission, someone else. And I would like to start off, and many of you are aware of this, but our dear Jean Hamill is in the hospital. I spoke with Nora a couple of times. I spoke with her late last evening, and Jean is still with us. She is, according to the nurses looking after her, no worse, but no better. And so Nora was in again in the hospital. And right as we speak, we have sent, we are compiling some recordings of the music that we use here that Babette and I have put together. And I'm doing a bit more this afternoon on just piano. And Nora is taking it to Jean's bedside and putting it close to her as she lies there. And Nora was very, very pleased with that. The idea came from Babette's daughter. I believe it was Cameron. If I could be wrong about all her daughters start with C, and it makes it very difficult, Babette, to remember, but I love them all, each of them. But there was a suggestion that came from there. What about listening to that music? And that was from the statement that if there's a service of celebration, Jean has said clearly that if she can't have Greta, she wants lots of music and Babette singing. So that's a command performance for Babette, and we will do that if that is the case that's necessary. And if not, we will rejoice at that. So our hearts are wrapped around Jean, and I've communicated, and you all have done the same to Nora, that our hearts are with her as well at this time and their family. So in this, our time of need,
May love
abound.
And for everyone taking care of Jean, Jean commented to Mel, I believe, that she's so appreciative of the care, and mentioned that people that have come from other lands with skills and abilities, and they are taking care of her. She's so grateful. And I love that comment. And so for all that's good that's happening in Jean's life, and everyone that's experiencing the best of what we can offer in healthcare, in this abundant blessing, we share the joy. Anyone else have any personal sharing, or even something that's bothered you on the news? This is the sharing time.
The two Michaels are home.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can't see, so someone tell me, and I will admit, get them in there. So for sure, Michael number 1.
The the people in third world countries, and this particularly impacts on Indigenous peoples too, climate change.
But I think that person that said the Michaels was talking about the two Michaels being home to Canada.
Oh, of course, of course. Thank you, Deb. I thought we had two Michaels wanting to speak and they couldn't sort out who to go first. Yes, okay. Thank you for that. Yes, that's a cause for celebration. So just wanted to respond to Ruth's in this our time of need.
May the
love abound.
And then for the celebration that many are experiencing today over that, I think it was a front page of the Star, or that I saw it when I came into work today. About good news, we share the joy. Sorry, in this abundant blessing.
We share the joy.
We're sharing the joy too quickly. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share about anyone else in our community?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Vilma. Yeah, while we were very happy and delighted that the two Michaels are home in Canada, something was also pointed out on the flip side, I guess, in an article this morning in the Star, that we have Jalil, the Uyghur, who has disappeared since 2006, kidnapped actually, and he's Canadian, and nothing has been done to even find out where he is or if he's even alive. And so the writer, you might want to read it. It's by Haroon Siddiqui. What are we going to do about that?
Vilma, is that someone lost in China? Is
Kidnapped.
that
He went back, he escaped and came to Canada. He became a citizen. So he and his wife and the kids went to visit his family. And he was grabbed in Uzbekistan and handed over to the Chinese government. They don't recognize his Canadian citizenship because he was born there in China. And so he's somewhere, if he's hopefully alive. But that's something that his family would like to know what can be done about that.
Of course. As soon as a piece of data, data becomes a real name and a real situation, it becomes so much more real to us, and how many numbers are representing how many people and how many fearful hearts and family members and things. So thank you for that in this our time of need.
Mel has something to say.
Mel.
Yes, I would just like to comment on Barb's asking for donations because we're going to now put money into the food bank and stuff. I would like us also to get after our provincial government, because during the time of COVID, there were a lot of people that lost their jobs. And so therefore putting food on the table has been a real struggle. And our provincial government is sitting on huge amounts of money. I can't remember the exact amount I read. It was in the Star on Saturday.
19 billion.
How much?
19 billion.
$19 billion that the federal government has given to the provinces to help people that are struggling through COVID, and nothing, they haven't spent any of it. So I think we should get after our federal governments and say, look, our food, if you're not going to do anything at all, at least fill our food banks.
The provincial government.
Yes, that's the provincial government that needs to do something, because they're sitting on all this money. So in this, our time of need.
May love abound. I will love to enter here and thank Mel for a political but non-partisan comment. And that's what we feature here in our morning official gathering. You can say whatever you like anywhere else, of course, but we have a commitment to actually, a very small, silly little detail, but when I put my orange shirt on, I chose a red tie, not in favor of a particular party, but to say this government, I'm urging it to do what it needs to do. So we are politically minded here at West Hill, absolutely, but we don't make partisan statements, and Mel didn't. And yes, urging our government, whoever is in power, to act is so important, with letters or phone calls or posters or marches and everything that can be done. So thank you for that, Mel. I know we're all tempted to be partisan, but we have to be political, because I read a statement the other day. If you can decide not to pay attention to politics, but politics is paying attention to you. And I think I mentioned that before, so it's important. Any other sharing at all? Did someone else have a hand that I cannot see? No, okay. On our wellness group, various people, Velda and others, keep us up to date about our folks that aren't well. She's in touch with so many and keeps us in touch with that. I know people have been in touch with Arlene, people have been in touch with Eleanor, with Marg Wood, who's in the veterans wing of Sunnybrook now. And again, many of you don't know who these folks are, and many of us do, and they're close to our heart. So we hold them and appreciate everyone that's connecting, more than any one of us could do, but we appreciate that very much. So for that. So if there's no more particular sharing, just scanning out, if you could all look at those screens for me, and we'll just move into the celebration aspect of, if you could name a couple of people, it could be someone you know that we don't know, or someone prominent, or an organization that's working so hard to undo the things we've mentioned that are harmful. So just a couple of people mentioned the people and organizations and movements worth celebrating.
We were out for a walk just before we came into West Hill today, and today is the Lithgow 10K, and there were hundreds of people running, and I reckon that a lot of them will be running to raise funds for good causes. So that just seems like an excellent thing to do.
Excellent. And I want to say, John, I love your phrase, Zoom notwithstanding. John said that he came into West Hill today. I love that. We've done this Zoom for a long time, and so I love that there's a feeling of coming in together as much as we can on the screen. So thank you for that. I'm going to wait for one more mention of one more person or organization doing good work.
The Scott Mission.
Yes, absolutely.
Alcoholics.
Yes.
Scott, I'd like to mention one that I've said a number of times, but I'm going to give you a paragraph. It's called Horizons of Friendship, and it's based in Coburg. They work in Central America, and they work to make sure that the right to not migrate and the right to sustainable development is at the heart of their work. In Chiapas, Mexico, in Southwest Costa Rica, Horizons work is founded on the belief that all people have the right to remain in their home if they choose. So this group out of Coburg, Ontario, does yeoman work in Costa Rica and other Central American places.
So I will ask the group, how many knew about that? I didn't. And there you go. We've just had our world expanded. Not, Walter is an expansive fellow to start with, but we've just got a wider view of people doing good and deserving of our cheer and our help and our support. So thank you for that. I so often hear about something. There it is. There's the picture. Thanks. Thank you. There they are. Now there's numbers have turned into people's faces. So there we go. Thank you for that. So in this abundant blessing worldwide, we share
the joy.
And because it is still the season where sunflowers are everywhere, let us join in our words of commitment. You're welcome to unmute and say it along together.
Hello, Scott. Chris Abbas had his hand up.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Chris, go ahead.
He's muted.
I said something rude, so it's just as well I was. Just before we leave this area, I'd like to mention the name of a lady whom I had never heard of until the other day, when I read in the paper that she has just completed a walk of nearly 3 years around the British Isles. That's England, Ireland, and Scotland. 10,500 miles, and she has raised £107,000 for Alzheimer's research, which is incredible, absolutely amazing. And I think that is certainly something to share the joy
In this abundant
Abundant
blessing.
blessing.
We do share the
joy.
joy.
Thank you. See, now we have a picture of this woman walking around the British Isles for a good cause. And that's just, I love when we add those people to our minds and hearts. Thank you for that, Chris. So in light of what we've just said, these are the words of commitment we attempt to live out, and we try to say together from our hearts. You're welcome to unmute and say it aloud with all of us, and you're welcome to stay muted or shut us all off and listen and just read the words quietly to yourself. Anything you would like to do. So Peter?
Peter's having trouble. He's going to have to quit and come back.
Well, that's an interesting word of commitment. He's quitting, but he's coming
come back. I like it.
Yes. Okay. So now that I'm not going to switch things around. I'm just going to see if he comes right back. So if we could just wait patiently, and you could check the screens, watch the screens carefully, and see who waits patiently well and who does not wait patiently well, if you wish to read faces or see screens.
Mm-hmm.
Peter appears to still be with us.
Scott, I'd just like to mention that how heartening it was to see so many young people around the world pouncing on the lack of work that the governments have been doing for our planet.
You can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. We're hearing you. The governments are doing for, what was that, Frank?
For our planet.
Climate. Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All around the world.
Again, it's a global community, and it feels more like that when you see these young people. Peter, where are we on that? Do you want me to? Peter Thomas entered the waiting room. Glenn, would you let him in? He should come in. We want him.
He's not moving, so I don't really know. But
Okay, I will switch things momentarily and ask.
Okay, I'm back, but I need to be made host again.
By?
I don't know who the host is.
Oh.
You are, Scott.
I am?
Scott.
Okay. I'm looking to do that. Okay. Okay.
Participants.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. I'm looking for Peter's name and not finding it.
If I talk, I might be at the top.
Okay. Keep talking.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
More. There.
So sorry, folks.
Did you get it?
Yes.
Wow. Lucky. There we go. Sunflowers.
What was that?
Whoa, that was a short movie. And this is now the words of commitment. Let's say them together.
the earth
is my home,
world
my family. As I live
Every day.
I want
Want
channel
to be a channel for peace.
healing
Where there is hurt.
joy
Where there is
fear.
there is fear.
I pray that
I always try
to understand
other people as well as seek understanding.
wherever
possible,
I
choose to be helping, caring,
and make justice
and both my heart.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Peter. And now I will ask Ruth if she will kindly share the readings with us.
The topic this morning is, of course, our values, as we take a close look at VisionWorks, newly revised and ready for use. The first reading recommends both vision and work. We hang on to our values, even if they seem at times tarnished and worn, even if, as a nation and in our own lives, we've betrayed them more often than we care to remember. What else is there to guide us? Those values are our inheritance, what makes us who we are as a people. And although we recognize that they are subject to challenge, can be poked and prodded and debunked and turned inside out by intellectuals and cultural critics, they have proven to be both surprisingly durable and surprisingly constant across classes and races and faiths and generations. We can make claims on their behalf, so long as we understand that our values must be tested against fact and experience, so long as we recall that they demand deeds and not just words. These words were spoken by Barack Obama and from his book, The Audacity of Hope. The second reading is by the Nobel Prize winning German-Swiss poet, novelist, and painter Hermann Hesse. His works include Steppenwolf, Siddhartha, and The Glass Bead Game. In each one, Hesse explores our search to understand ourselves and live authentically, with what we come to understand. Only the ideas that we really live have any value. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk in its light.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you for reading with your heart, as you do always. The middle section of what we're going to look at today is wrapped around the theme of love. And I could think of no better way to enter our team discussion with you, which we've been very much looking forward to doing, by having Babette's recording of the song It Is Love. So Peter, lead us through. You're welcome to sing along on mute.
What stands tall when all has fallen remains when strength is gone. What can heal the broken spirit? Mid chaos, find a song. It is love and love alone. It is love and love alone. What consoles an aching spirit, brings joy despite the pain. What can soothe our hurt-filled anger, cease sharing wealth as gain? It is love and love alone. It is love and love alone. What inspires responsibility, sees worth in great and small. What views self and others equally, seeks peace and joy for all. It is love and love alone. It is love and love
Thank you, Babette. I wanted to say at this time that Babette and I spent a number of hours yesterday trying to get one particular song recorded for today. And we recorded it after many tries in different ways of setting things up, and then tried to send it someplace and spent another couple hours trying to do that. And I just wanted to say that behind the scenes, Babette cares about our music so deeply and puts time into that willingly, so well, so beautifully. So thank you, Babette, for all the work yesterday. It still didn't get where we needed it to get, but we'll figure that out soon. But anyway, thank you from all of us for the heart you put into the music and the time as well. So thank you for that. Peter, if you could start the PowerPoint selections, and then of course when we have a team member taking part, we'll go to a screen to show them as they speak. But right now, we'll start with the PowerPoint. And of course, the first one is that the perspective today is on VisionWorks 2021. We submitted the reviewed and revised version, as has been done every 5 years, to the board not too long ago, and they encouraged us to put together a presentation for the congregation. And here we are together doing that. And also, as Deb mentioned, we're going to be having a discussion the next 3 Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. Come on and reflect. You can come on and be absolutely silent and just listen, or comment, or reflect, or challenge, or question, anything at all. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So the next slide is at the front of the VisionWorks document. And we're going to be looking at a little bit of history here too, but I just wanted to, for those of you that are newer and maybe didn't even know we had a VisionWorks document, or knew we had it and kept wondering what it was, and what an odd title. And it could look like a strategic plan, and it's not. It could look like a vision for the future. And in some ways, it's not exactly what you'd expect for that. And it's not an assignment of work. So it's a very unusual term. It came long ago, related to a particular program that was going on, I think, in the United Church. Could be wrong about that. But it stuck because it had the idea of holding our values in front of our eyes, in front of our attention, and putting them into practice. So VisionWorks kind of got that, but of course it needs explaining, which is something with language, we're very much trying not to have to happen, but I guess in a title like this, it's okay. So I'll just read this for those of you that aren't seeing. Oh, sorry, still the same slide, Peter. Just back up. I'll just read this for those of you. I'm very aware that there's some of you that aren't visually with us. They're just hearing us. So I'll just read these slides. And this is at the start of VisionWorks for a couple of times. VisionWorks is an evolving document that articulates West Hill's core values. We use it to inspire, affirm, and guide us as individuals in community. So evolving document, we're going to talk about that it never stays the same for too long, that articulates core values. It doesn't take particular stands on issues, not specific, not applied ethics, as it were, but we use it to inspire. Some people have used it in our personal life to affirm our values. If we want to go, where have we listed them? Where have we put them on paper or on screen? And that's that. And then to guide us as individuals in community. They echo the same words of the words of commitment. It's in the same, but this is a committed document for that. So I'm going to the next slide. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about how it began, and how it began the way it began. And that has to do with, and I'm really giving a very sketchy, very simple and with lots of holes in it, but I'm trying to emphasize the main points where that there was a call for churches to look at their own statement of faith. What would you write down if you were writing down a statement of faith? And as soon as we started to do that, if we indeed even started with discussing the topic, we could see that immediately there would be lines drawn all over the congregation that would divide them according to beliefs. And we didn't want that. the book studies at West Hill, and some of you here are still original members of those book studies, we're digging into cutting edge progressive Christian works. Authors like Jack Spong, who is sadly no longer with us, and Marcus Borg, same thing, and Don Cupid and Lloyd Gearing, and these authors that were writing to expose congregations, to expose even Christians, people or believers, to the background of their scriptures, of their creeds, of their theologies. And so the Friday group was saying, this is important, this is liberating, this is less exclusive. But the tension was, the Sunday morning services were still using the traditional words, very theistic. We wouldn't call them fundamentalist, but certainly theistic language. Oh God, in your mercy, hear our prayer. And the hymns were very much a theistic interventionist God in the words, try as we might to find other ones. So the idea of making a statement of faith was prohibitive. And so the idea came to make a statement of values, a statement of how we wish to live with each other, which is a very different thing than a statement of beliefs. Accepting that very quickly, we found that a statement of values, our values have to be grounded in something. And so all of a sudden we were back at the idea of belief. And this is what, we're going to look at some of the history here, was struggled with right from the beginning. And those of you that have just come into West Hill, I think it's really important for you to see that we didn't start out like you see us now. There's been enormous years of transition, enormous years of conflict about that transition, of heartbreak. We've had people unable to travel further with us because we were moving too quickly in a progressive direction. There are people that were no longer able to travel with us because we were moving too slowly in a progressive tradition. And so this has been the tension all along. We can all look back and regret where we didn't handle that as lovingly as we should have or could have. And there's ways we look back and say we could have done none other than what we did. But it's a great, so I just, for newer people, it's been a work, a vision and a work together. The idea of a statement of values was grasped onto, and immediately upon doing it, we realized that we were making a statement as we were in transition. And so our wording had to reflect a wider variety of views than it possibly does right now about doctrine or about theology. So that transition, you'll see it in some of the words, how we grounded our values, because no longer did we want to ground them in a particular book or a particular person, but how are we going to do that in language that still brought all of us with us? And that was the challenge, a big challenge. So what was included and what was not included was really very important. And what we did was we looked at statements of faith and statements of values from all over the place. We looked at the humanist values. We looked at religious humanists, Christian humanists. We looked at the United Church of Canada statement. We looked at the Baptist Convention. We looked at Pentecostal. We looked at the Ethical Cultural Society. We looked at the Unitarian Church. We looked at all the ways they would phrase their values. And I'm going to take a moment of delicacy here. This is a tough one, and I welcome feedback on this. But when we sit in the United Church of Canada and we took a look at the Song of Faith, which is one of the most progressive documents the United Church has produced about their doctrine, we saw there and see there, and you're welcome to look it up, phrases such as God creates the universe, God tends the universe, mending the broken and reconciling the estranged, God enlivens the universe, guiding all things. It speaks about God's loving action in the world. It speaks of God as self-giving. It speaks of us as being in God, and with no particular definition of God. The struggle we had was with some of the language, and many people do, the language of idea of God or love doing something apart from us. Gentle is the word for that. That God forgives, that God reconciles, that God transforms, that God became flesh in Jesus, that God calls us to repent from our sins and be forgiven by God. And I'm using those words only because that's where we sat with these words and found that if that's what we put in our document, we were immediately dividing our people. And so values oriented was a very good way to walk, because later in the document from the United Church of Canada, our values are exactly the same. We resonate with the values completely. And so that was, and I'm talking about a very difficult thing here, and because I'm bringing the perspective, I'm doing it, but you're welcome at any time to engage on that, except during the perspective at the moment. But at any time other than that, absolutely. So what I want to do very quickly, and Peter's going to help me with this, with the slides, I want to just show you very quickly the little bit of history about the different documents starting in 2004. So the next slide, Peter. 2004, it was introduced this way: the features of West Hill United Church, a progressive community of faith in the Christian tradition, 2004. That's how it was phrased. The very first VisionWorks was phrased this way. Next slide. We are a community of faith committed to love and spiritual growth through shared ministry, dynamic practices, and a diversity of inspiration. Those were our words to bring us in the transition. Next slide. Our foundation, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are the 7 points of the original document. Our foundation is spiritual. Our nature is that of community. Our commission is to love. Our ministry is shared. Our practices are dynamic. Our sources for inspiration are diverse. And our commitment is to spiritual growth. Does anyone on the screens remember that as being the VisionWorks they were embraced when they first came on? I can't see the screen, but I'm wondering if there's some folks that, yeah, Marilyn, I see you there. Next screen. The conclusion of that, and I'm putting this on purpose because we've kept it very much the same: we are not alone in this life of faith, for we journey together in the spirit of divine love. We are not alone is an echo directly from the United Church of Canada's Song of Faith. We are not alone. Next slide. 2009. The agreement was from the very beginning that the VisionWorks document would be looked at again and revised wherever we could get it clearer and more relevant. And so then in 2009, a group came together again and produced the document that was introduced this way: West Hill United Church, a progressive spiritual community growing out of the Christian traditions. You get the word change there. Before it was within, and now it's growing out of the Christian tradition, VisionWorks 2009. Next slide. This is from this is the points from this one. Our grounding, you see the change, is the interconnectedness of all life. Our response to life is love, unchanged. Our sources for wisdom are diverse. Our gatherings are dynamic, and our vision is growth. Next slide. Still 2009. The introduction said, bringing with us a wide diversity of experience and viewpoints, we come together in community, moved by a shared reverence for life, to pursue justice, seek truth, live fully, care deeply, and make a difference. Next slide. Aspiring to live to lives that are grounded, caring, conscientious, engaged, and transformative. We commit, and often recommit, to live out the values we have embraced and set out in this document. Again from 2009, next slide. As an outline of how we want to live, it does not propose nor do we require beliefs beyond these values. Now, do you hear the ground rumbling a little bit there? That was a big statement. That was a huge statement to say we do not propose or require beliefs beyond these values. A very, very brave and important step. Next slide. To develop, evaluate, and maintain this community, we employ the elements of progressive thinking. This was taken right from many of Greta's talks around the world, where she featured the ideas of including openness, passion, intellectual rigor, honesty, courage, creativity, balance, and respect. Next slide. Conclusion of the 2009, in joy and sorrow, in triumph and trial, in certainty and doubt, we are not alone, for we travel together in the spirit of love. Next slide. Taking us to 2015, VisionWorks, 2015 West Hill, a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. Another transition to another way of thinking, the focus coming more on values. Some of the wording you might not resonate with, and some you do. So next slide, 2015. Our grounding is the interconnectedness of all life. Our response to life is love. Our sources for wisdom are diverse. Our gatherings are dynamic, and our vision is growth. No longer 7 points. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Next slide. The conclusion was the same, in joy and sorrow, a little bit different, in joy and in sorrow, in triumph and trial, in certainty and doubt. We are not alone, for we travel together in the spirit of love. Next slide. The key reflections, and you're going to hear from the team on this, was that we have moved to where we ground our ideas about life, about humanity, about morality, about anything in life itself, that wide open and that challenging. And so we seek to claim truths that anyone could see if they looked. And the truth about life being interconnected is one of those truths. And so the key reflection, the key thing that we've worked towards with a great deal of difficulty, a great deal of challenge, and a great deal of joy was that liberating but very demanding stand to take as our grounding is in life itself. And then to figure out how our values fit in with that. And that's been, I mean, it will be talked about by the group here. So next slide, Peter. The 2020-21 review team in alphabetical order, Anita and me and John and Doug, I guess for those of you that, Anita Desrosiers, Scott Kearns, John McKechnie, Doug Richards, and Emily Trippers. We had John from Scotland, we had Doug from Woodstock, we had Emily and Anita from much more locally, and we worked together as every team has worked. And I want to just, if you're all looking at the screen, maybe you're not at the moment, but raise your hand if you've ever been part of a VisionWorks team before. Some of you may not be here, but some of you are there. I remember it well. Some of them, I haven't been on all of them at all, but there's the team. And we are going to introduce the 2021 document. The next screen, Peter. This is the introduction in the 2021 version. VisionWorks is an evolving document that articulates West Hill's core values. We use it to inspire, affirm, and guide us as individuals in community. This document is organized, next slide. This document is organized slightly differently. And what I say about that is we realized we were no longer in transition to a barrier-free, theologically, philosophical group, but we were here. And so we've changed the organization. And one of the members suggested we organize it around the next slide, which is that the first section could be grounded in life. And there's the three sections we used for that. The next slide, guided by love. And we looked at those sections and you'll see them. That's how it was organized. The next slide is growing in wisdom. And that is the organization there. Next slide. In every case, we gathered what was in the original documents and brought them under those headings and changed what we thought could be clarified and dropped what we thought was no longer necessary because it was guiding our transition to where we are here. And as one of our members did it, succinctness was a goal, was a strong goal. Mm-hmm. So it did get shorter and more succinct. There's Doug cheering. You can tell which one was our cheerleader for succinctness. And so I'm going to ask the committee members, they're going to right now just give a short thought on how it was to participate in this group. It doesn't matter to me who starts. I see Doug, do you want to just give your thoughts there?
I had to remember to unmute. I was both thrilled and humbled to be asked to serve on this committee with 4 amazing people, Anita, Emily, Scott, and John. And each one of us brought our own unique perspective and experience to this challenging job of updating VisionWorks to make it more relevant to where West Hill is now. It was a real pleasure to work with this team on this incredible project. As Scott said, VisionWorks was started in 2004, and it's been part of West Hill's life for nearly 2 decades. This is the 3rd revision, as it has continuously evolved to follow the exciting journey that West Hill has been experiencing. Now, VisionWorks, though, is far more than words on a piece of paper. It's a reflection of the journey and the values of the people of West Hill. The original 2004 version of VisionWorks was a beautiful and poetic piece of work, but it was also a bold and courageous statement of the essence of the West Hill community. And right from the beginning, it was seen as a groundbreaking expression of what it means to be an ethical community in today's world. Now, I was invited to become a part of the VisionWorks team, and I came with 2 or 3 goals in mind. First was to make VisionWorks as positive as possible. Too many times, the progressive community has been defined by what we don't believe or by what we reject, like a supernatural interventionist God, or that the Bible was dictated by God. And secondly, I wanted VisionWorks to be clear and concise. I strongly believed that the greatest ideas are best expressed in a minimum of words. If it's too long or too difficult to read, people may read it once and then put it on a shelf somewhere. And just as an aside, you might appreciate that the original VisionWorks document was about 1,500 words long, and the latest one is only 550 words. And thirdly, I thought it was important to maintain some of the poetic dignity of the original VisionWorks in such a way as to be easily accessible for everyone. Now, if somebody came up to you and asked you, what does West Hill believe? How would you answer them? I think the answer can be easily found in this latest version of VisionWorks, which at its very heart contains the essence of West Hill in every paragraph. I love the simplicity and the alliteration of the 3 Gs: grounded, guided, and growing. And this makes it very easy to remember and to understand the 3 parts of VisionWorks. Now, perhaps this is our Trinitarian contribution to the church. So in case you haven't figured it out by now, it was both a joy and a life-enhancing experience for me to be able to work with these 4 beautiful people on this exciting VisionWorks project. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Is there another one of the beautiful people that would like to share? John and Emily, you're welcome to jump in as well.
I'm very willing to defer to a lady at the moment.
I don't know, is Emily here? Okay, John, if you could go ahead.
I could just say, my statement would be what Doug just said. He said it all. It was marvelous. But I think somebody might want me to say something a bit more than that. So for me, being invited to be part of the team reviewing VisionWorks was both an honour and also a huge challenge. An honour because it was an opportunity to contribute to West Hill in this important way. And this predated my becoming involved as in the financial way. This community during our visits over the years has drawn in Anne and I with its honesty and its warmth. This experience was also a challenge because Scott has outlined the journey that has brought West Hill to the point where it wants to review its statement of values again. And so there was a challenge getting up to speed. The first document might be 1,500 words, but there were 3 other documents to read as well. And then there was the homework. All sorts of statements of faith, belief. While some of it was interesting and some of it was less interesting. The other part of my experience, I think, probably took me to a similar place as Doug has mentioned. I wanted our output to express positively what we thought and wanted to do, and to reference what we were for, and wherever possible, not to be defining ourselves by what we don't stand for. In that regard, I think our VisionWorks statement is now ready for sharing with members and friends, and I hope you enjoy participating in its continuing evolution. The process itself involves a lot of discussion. If you can imagine having different versions of what we had said previously, and how could we, as it were, synthesize that into something that was meaningful now. That was quite challenging. There was also a very fascinating discussion about how we go from being grounded in life to choosing love as our guide. Not going into that just now, but we'll come to that later, I imagine. One of the strengths of this review was Scott's leadership, and doing what he has just done, providing us with background and helping us understand how we got to be where we are today. Because if you ignore the past, you're in danger of falling into the mistakes that have previously been made and not gaining the wisdom from learning from the past. Sometimes we would be happy with text, and other times we would all be chipping in with ideas of how to express what we wanted to say and set the tone that we wanted. Occasionally we thought we were finished, and sometimes we had to go back and we had to rewrite little sections or maybe bigger sections. It was all quite intense at times, but thoroughly engaging. And afterwards, you just felt that you had been working hard. So this was not an in-the-head review. We realized it was also about writing a manifesto, as it were, for the way we want to live as individuals and as a community. And we were always aware and conscious that, important as this job was, the document didn't actually have special power over us. Participating in this review, as Doug has said, brought us all very closely together. We were able to share ideas confidently. And I think it has increased our sense, and certainly it's increased my sense of connection with West Hill, and particularly with my fellow team members. It was always a pleasure to connect with my new Canadian friends for VisionWorks. And it shows too that the bonds of friendship can be formed virtually. Back to Scott.
Anita, are you with us or you're not back yet? Okay, I am here giving Anita's reflections here that she has passed on. She'll be back with us very shortly, but here's her words. The process of working on VisionWorks was most enjoyable and educational. Listening to Scott, Doug, and John talk about the history of progressive Christianity and also the history of West Hill was most enlightening. While I could not contribute at all to those discussions, I hope that I was helpful in trying to understand the essence of what they were saying, where they were going, and then helping to distill it down onto the paper. It was an interesting experience for me in that I was not deconstructing previous thoughts and beliefs to where we are now. I had very little to no experience of these thoughts and beliefs. For example, I had no idea that a metaphor had a different meaning and use in Christianity. I love the construction of what we believe today. I'm so pleased with the document we have produced. It expresses completely the way I feel and have felt for a long time. I hope others will find it equally relevant. And that is from Anita. And now I'll come back. And so Emily, I think Emily, if she's here, she's welcome to pop on with that. And so what we're going to start is here we are now going to show you the document, and each of the team members is introducing one of the three parts. And so I'm going to ask John to come back again and read for us, and it would be on the screen, Peter. So if you get, that's great. He's there before I even say it. To see the first section of the 2021 document of VisionWorks. So John, when you're ready, you could read us our first section.
Grounded in life. Life, connections. With a deep sense of awe and wonder, we acknowledge life in all its diversity and complexity as an interconnected web of relationships beyond our full comprehension. Life, experience. We recognize our place within this web of life. We are each affected by natural forces and human choices, and in turn have an impact on the natural world and the human community, helping or harming by our actions and inactions. Life as source. From these realities, we draw our sense of identity and belonging and form our views on humanity, meaning, and morality.
Bit more.
Life as source. While we are aware of our limited perspectives and fallibility, we are also eager to discover, understand, and experience life.
Thank you. Just back up a little bit there, Peter. Thank you, John. And we're going to be discussing each line, if you wish, each idea on Wednesdays. But the groundbreaking rumble in this first section, of course, is the grounding, that we ground ourselves in life. Is there just a comment you wish to make on that? Just looking at the time, just a comment, John, on that first section.
Yes, I'm going to make a very brief comment. And every journey begins with the first step. So my first step in presenting this piece today is to ask the question, why grounded in life? That's where the document starts, but doesn't actually address the question, why start with grounded in life? It might have been the time difference, but I don't recall this actually being discussed during our VisionWorks review. But I wanted to offer some of my thoughts on that topic. We begin with where we are in our lives. We begin in the present moment, and it is that which unites us. The variety of our circumstances, our backgrounds, our location even, they don't divide us because we are all grounded in coping with our lives as they are. Life itself is that starting point. And so we are a diverse community, yet we constantly discover how connected we are. And for me, I think that's probably the most important part of this section.
Thank you, John. Grounded in life. The next section, second section, will be introduced by Doug.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay. Scott tells me that this section on love is the easiest and least controversial part of VisionWorks. It really wouldn't pose a problem for any church, whether Christian, Unitarian, or even for the evangelical tradition where Scott and Dennis come from. So there's not really much I can say to introduce it. However, one thing I would like to emphasize is the first line, which reads, "In light of our interconnectedness in life, we choose love as our highest value and guide." And of course, the word life here refers back to the first section, grounded in life. In our long and invigorating discussions during the past year, we considered many ideas about the sources of human morality and have chosen the one which is based on life, its interconnectivity, and its role as the bond that brings us all together. Then, amongst the multiplicity of moral alternatives, we have intentionally and unequivocally chosen love as our primary guide in walking life's path. And finally, we've committed ourselves to a goal of growing in wisdom, using love to guide us along this path of learning. But the important word in this first line is choice. Love is a choice, and it's the choice we've made to guide our lives. So I won't have too many other comments afterwards, but let's now read the Guided by Love section. Just hang on a sec. Okay, in light of our interconnectedness in life, we choose love as our highest value and guide. We take love to mean actions that embody justice, compassion, honesty, openness, integrity, courage, kindness, forgiveness for self, others, and the planet. Our choice, okay, we put these little subtitles on top of things. Love in action, advocacy. Our choice of love leads us to acknowledge the worth of all beings, and therefore their right to be treated with dignity and respect. We seek to increase our awareness of the places of hurt in the world and our sense of responsibility for the consequences of our actions and inactions. Love in action, decisions. As we encounter ethical complexity, cultural diversity, and conflicting worldviews, we acknowledge inevitable uncertainty, seeking a comprehensive understanding and support one another in making choices in line with our values. Love in action, interpersonal relationships. We strive to interact with one another in a caring, honest manner, expressing views respectfully, listening attentively, and responding with empathy. We work towards consensus and creative conflict resolution, and in times of broken trust, seek mutual understanding, forgiveness, and healing. Love in action, interpersonal relations continued. We meet to experience and contribute to community. We celebrate and commemorate life events, share joys, express concerns, develop relationships, study and challenge, engage in self-reflection, and commit to action. And I think that's about it. I don't know if anybody heard jingle bells in the background, but somebody came to our door while I was talking, and that was the doorbell ringing.
Well, that was perfect because it was about interpersonal relations. So you were contacted with that. Now I'm just going to ask, Anita, are you back with us? Does anyone see Anita's screen? No. Okay.
On screen.
She had an appointment. So I'm just going to, she has forwarded this earlier to introduce her section, the third section. My section is Growing in Wisdom. Good section for an ex-teacher, she says. Here we talk about pursuing wisdom, where in our pursuit, we look for wisdom and what we plan to do with it once we find it. If there was to be any controversy here with other church organizations, it would not be about our desire for wisdom, but rather the sources we use, or perhaps more importantly, don't choose to find wisdom. Love is our lens for discerning wisdom in any source, not the prescription of what is through thought to be authoritative texts. Thank you, Anita. Those are powerful words. I'm coming back to the screen now, and I'm going to ask, let me think. Mike, are you there?
Which Mike do you mean?
That's you, Mike. Would you do us the honor of reading the last section? Yeah, you haven't rehearsed this, but I can see you on my screen here, and I don't want to be again, the voice of this. So this is Anita's section that she has just introduced. If you could read it with us, please.
I'd be honored to carry the ball here, sir.
Okay.
The pursuit of wisdom. In light of our interconnectedness in life and our choice of love as our guide, we strive to grow in wisdom for living. We seek knowledge and insight that will deepen our understanding of our values and strengthen our commitment to them so that we may effectively apply them personally, locally, and globally. We seek wisdom in all historical eras, diverse cultures and traditions, and varied forms of expression, including word, music, art, dance, symbols, and silence. No source is assumed to be inherently authoritative or to contain absolute or universal truth, nor is any source accorded a privileged status based on claims for its supernatural or transcendent origin. Love alone is our guide for discerning wisdom in any source. We encourage one another to seek, interpret, and create meaning for ourselves, valuing exploration and questioning over the pursuit of certainty. Sharing wisdom. We gain insight for living out our core values as we share diverse views, experiences, interpretations, and resources, and consider them together in the light of love for self, others, and the planet.
Yeah, stay with that screen there, Peter. Thank you, Mike, for reading on the fly like that. Appreciate it. Although he has had a chance to look at it at the board level. You see in there again those very unique stances we have taken, that we consider no human source to be more authoritative than the other. We consider a source in light of love. Does it help us love better? Does it convict us of a need for more love, for more compassion, for more kindness, for more justice? It is not the place it comes from, it's what it's about, and that can even change over time. So again, we envelop the idea of love with the grounded in life and sharing wisdom from all sources from which we can derive love. The conclusion, the next slide, the conclusion, and you're hearing the resonance with all the other documents, we brought them together. As we strive to live in these ways as individuals in community, we often soar and often stumble. yet in joy and sorrow, in certainty and doubt, we travel together in a spirit of love. And I'm going to ask you to keep that slide on, Peter. I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to ask as many wish to unmute and just read this last slide together, as cacophonous as that can sound sometimes. If you wish, I just invite you into accepting this presentation of the 2021 VisionWorks document. So if you wish to do that together, we'll say together. As we strive
to live in this way,
as individuals and
community,
we often soar and often stumble, yet in joy and sorrow,
yet in joy and certainty,
travel together.
we travel together. Spirit of love.
Beautiful. You are now all part of the VisionWorks 2021. I from the bottom of my heart, thank the committee, the team, thank all of us for working on this. Thank you, Mike, for supporting it as the board chair. Thank you, board members, for embracing it with joy. And I invite you to discussions this Wednesday. And if you have other comments, email me or phone me or whatever. It's to be discussed and to be dug into and lived out. And the theme, of course, is living love. So thank you. I just want to, if the screen could just thank the team members for that presentation. That would be beautiful. With the yes, and some of you are thanking yourselves, which is beautiful too, as a team. And have a week of vision and of work where you apply love in your lives. Join us on Tuesday for wellness. Join us, Mike, on Thursday for the coffee time. Join us on Wednesday at 2 o'clock to dig into the first section. Very controversial, interesting, unique, astoundingly important first section, as they all are. And then next Sunday for our gathering together. So take care, all of you. Be safe, be well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Scott.